Well, good afternoon. I'm Leon Davis, and it is 2 o'clock, Saturday, August the 18th. And my guest today is David L. Jackson. He's a, let me find my notes here. He's a small business owner, former Board of Education president for the City of St. Louis, a former commissioner for the Tax Increment Finance Commission, and some notable achievements. United States Air Force veteran, honorably discharged in 1983. Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration and Criminology, which I think is an interesting pairing of disciplines. A certified property manager by the National Center for Housing Management, and quite a list of other achievements. And we will talk to him in just a second.
Welcome to Altitude Adjustment.
All righty. So, Mr. David, Mr. Jackson, are you around?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. Some of the information that I saw about you, I couldn't imagine not having you on the show. That would have been the travesty.
Thank you. I'm humble.
So one of the things that we talked about initially when I asked you to come on the show was we talked about the primaries for this past August, or the first of this month, actually. And for me, there were some, I want to say, things that I didn't anticipate happening in this election, such as Wesley Bell unseating a longtime incumbent,
Bob McCullough.
Bob McCullough, right?
Yeah.
And
yes.
I get all these names in here. Cori Bush, which we talked about. She had a very strong showing against a candidate that has been around for a long time.
Yes, and she was a very good competitor. Unfortunately, several things happened that just didn't make her successful. One, I think a lot of folks took for granted or didn't understand the commitment that Congressman Clay had for not only the city of St. Louis, but for the region.
Okay.
And he has a strong and a wide, broad support of the entire city of St. Louis and mostly North County. And I don't think Cori Bush campaign concentrated that much within the city of St. Louis, with the exception of, I think, a couple of wards in the Central West End and the outermost northern wards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that cost her quite a number of votes. But still, if you looked at the numbers, Clay's support, like I said, was very, very broad across the city of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think that that she got a bump in her support because there seems to be this pushback against people that are incumbents?
Yeah, and it's a pushback on those incumbents that have served more than 2 terms, and that the people haven't actually seen any results of them being in office.
Mm-hmm.
And Cori Bush, she brought out of course, the young progressives, but she also brought out just regular young folks who was just energized by her being a young, aggressive community organizer. And that's one of the reasons she got as many votes as she did. I mean, just like you said, people, especially the young folks, were looking for a change.
Okay. One of the people that had a stronger showing than I anticipated was Coffee Wright. Now, I realize that, oh man, just when I need them, these names just pop out of my head. During a normal conversation, I can remember all of these names. She was running against Claire McCaskill. Claire McCaskill, and I know Claire McCaskill is supposedly vulnerable in this upcoming November, but Coffee Wright had a pretty strong showing, I thought, for someone who just got into the game late.
Yeah, she did, but she ran a very, very strenuous campaign. I mean, it was a grassroots campaign. She used social media quite a bit. I was surprised by the numbers too. Even though I did not support Coffee, I wished her well. I was really excited about the numbers, and she doesn't seem to be going anywhere because I've been to a couple of places and a couple of meetings where she was in attendance. So I think she's going to be around a while, and I think the numbers really impressed her and her organization. And so get ready to see a little bit more of Miss Wright.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to work with her on a couple of, so I'm work on another podcast, and that was actually how I met Coffee. At the time, she hadn't decided to run. So yeah, she has an organization, and I don't want to mispronounce the name because I think it's important to get it right. But it's she has an organization to try to help build a better, stronger community. One of her things was she wanted to bring media creation or Hollywood to St. Louis, basically, so that we could create our own content, so that we could tell our own stories. And so that was how I met her. Another interesting, I thought, election, or one that piqued my interest, was the Michael Butler, Sharon Carter deal.
Yes, and that was a three-way race basically, and Sharon Carpenter was a strong competitor to try to unseat. But Michael Butler had a lot of community support. He had a lot of main political support, and that really helped him. I did not support Michael Butler simply because there was 3 incidents where his integrity came into question.
Okay.
And I thought that I could not honestly vote for him because of that. I thought out of the 3, the only person who seemed to have integrity was Jimmy Matthews. But people did not take Jimmy Matthews seriously, even though this is the most votes he had ever gotten with all the races he's ever ran. But Michael Butler had a very, very strong and broad support system, and that carried him over the top successfully.
Very good. For me, Michael's name recognition, because he's ran for several positions in the St. Louis area, in the St. Louis political scene. So he has that. Because he just finished a term as a representative.
Yes.
He turned out.
Yes, and Michael Butler, he's a community person. He's a nice guy. He has friendships, partnerships, abundance, and that is what made him very, very successful.
Okay. So one question on the. So I've got a note here about the City Oversight Review Board. Now, you were part of that? No,
I just I made application.
Okay.
Yeah, as requested. They took applications from different residents in the different 7 districts they gave it,
Okay.
and I came in second.
Oh, okay. Okay.
In my district.
So I wanted to touch on the local politics. I think it's going to be interesting come November, as far as the. Now we talked a little bit right before the show started about how the local politics are going to affect the national politics. Did you want to make any comments on that, or share your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, most definitely, local politics will affect the national politics. That's one of the reasons why I supported Congressman Clay. When you look at not only his record and what resources he brought back here to the city of St. Louis, but you also have to look at his relationships and partnerships that he has in Washington, D.C. It's a very difficult time for any Democrat in Washington, D.C. It is very, very difficult for them to get any legislation passed, to ask for any type of resources for their community, unless you have partnerships not only with other Democrats, but with Republicans in order to get support on your needs and wants. So that's one of the reasons that I had to give Congressman Clay my vote. And that's one of the reasons why I asked everyone that I knew to support him, because we need that seniority in Washington, D.C. to affect our local area here in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so did you want to make any kind of I don't want to say predictions, but do you have any ideas what you think will happen in November?
Well, I think the Democrats are going to be very, very successful in November. Here in the St. Louis area, and definitely in the state of Missouri, the Democrats should fare well. Mm-hmm. And that should work for us. A lot of folks, especially black folks, it was really tough for them this time around with Senator McCaskill, mm-hmm. because she hasn't been receptive to the black community. The black community was really having a hard time whether to support her and to believe in her. Mm-hmm. But the folks did go to the polls. She did win. Mm-hmm. Now the test is going to be, will they come out for her in November? When you looked at the numbers, over 500,000 Republicans came out in the state of Missouri to vote for Josh Cawley, for the Republican side. Mm-hmm. That's tremendous. And, Claire McCaskill cannot win the Senate seat without the black vote. And she needs to continue. I think she was here in the Ferguson area yesterday. Okay. She needs to continue all the way through to November to address the black community, their concerns and needs.
Okay. I had just had a great question. It kind of jumped out of my head. It'll come back to me. But you yourself, so I'm going to jump topics and go to your time on the Board of Education for the City of St. Louis. And yeah. Now, you were appointed to that position?
No, I ran in the campaign in 2007.
Okay, in 2007. And so what was that campaign like for you?
That was my first, taste of the political arena. Mm-hmm. It's a citywide elected position, so, I was running from north, south, east, and west, attending every community meeting, every ward meeting to introduce myself and to talk about the St. Louis Public Schools.
Okay.
I was successful in winning that seat in 2007. And I came back 4 years later and ran again, and was successful in that campaign.
Okay.
Currently, I'm trying to decide. I have until Monday,
Okay.
when the campaign closes, to run again. I've been asked by quite a few people to consider running, and reason being, the state is poised to return the governance of the St. Louis Public Schools back to local control. That's very, very important because currently the Special Administrative Board, who's governing the school district, are planning to establish a oversight committee of the elected Board of Education. And so that board would be overseeing any action of the elected Board of Education.
Mm-hmm.
And so once again, in that board that's being put together is an appointed board. So we're right back.
Right.
And
so they're
part of the
no. Go ahead.
Oh, and so the Special Administrative Board, and I believe that the CEO of the Special Administrative Board, Rick Sullivan, is planning to chair that new appointed board that's going to be selected to oversee the elected board with the blessings of the State Board of Education.
So they're adding a layer of management that is not elected over the elected members of the Board of Education. Is that what's happening?
Yes, and it's been set up to be a permanent oversight board, and they have also introduced a plan to subdivide the school district in different areas of the city, where each area will govern a certain amount of schools within itself.
So they're going to add a layer of management that is not elected above the layer of management that is elected, and then parse out and break the school district up into districts, into smaller districts.
Correct. Those districts can be public schools. They could be schools that are managed by a private entity. They could be schools that are what they call contract management schools. They can be schools that are charter schools. The plan is out there. The Special Administrative Board will be voting on it next month, I believe. Dr. Adams has already presented it, and I think he's got 30 to 60 days to present the final proposal, and the SAB will vote on it. But, I mean, this is the city residents are sleeping in this matter, and, it's affecting their school district.
This is the first I've actually heard of that, so I guess I have to count myself as one of those who've been to sleep. So pardon me on that, but now I'm just going based on your description of it. It sounds like something is amiss here. Am I missing that? Am I mischaracterizing that?
Oh, no. It's exactly right. And one of the reasons that you are asleep on it is because there has been no public notice regarding this plan, with the exception what's being said at the Special Administrative Board meetings. I have not looked on their website to see if they have the plan on the website, which I don't think it is because it hasn't been approved yet. This is just a vision of the board that Dr. Adams is moving forward with. So the general public is not aware of it because it hasn't really been made public.
Okay, so who has the authority to create this oversight board?
The Special Administrative Board.
Special Administrative Board, and that was and they get okay. So because I'm a little lost there. Now the Special Administrative Board was appointed several years ago, right?
In 2007.
2007. So that was in response to
the school district losing its accreditation.
Okay, so the school district lost its accreditation. They appointed a special school oversight committee. This oversight committee is now proposing a permanent non-elected oversight committee.
Correct. And what happened was in the Special Administrative Board, on the request of the State Education Board, held a few community meetings to discuss governance of the St. Louis Public Schools. What is the best fit? And after all the meetings, after all the research, it was decided, it was recommended, and found that there's no true fact of what's best or who best to govern the school district.
Okay.
And so it was recommended that it go back to an elected board to represent the people of the community. The Special Administrative Board, however, did not feel that that was the best. Thus is the reason they decided to create an advisory board, while they're still in power, that with the blessing of the state board will stay in place until the elected board comes in and have to look at how to dismantle that system if it's not a best fit for not only the school board, but for the entire school system as a whole.
Okay.
I mean, it's a major move about education here in St. Louis, and it is unfortunate that all this is being done under cloak and dagger in the back room.
Right.
It's horrible for our kids. I mean, just like now, you know, the school district is supposed to be fully accredited.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at the numbers, and when I say we, it's people that I'm associated with, other board members that used to be on the elected board. We looked at the data, and the data shows that out of the 70 St. Louis public schools, a third of them, which is about 22, 23 schools, have failed our kids. They are failed schools. They're not provisionally accredited. They're just failed schools. So we question the state as to how can you give full accreditations to the St. Louis public schools and a third of the schools have failed. And the asinine thing is the Special Administrative Board have not notified the parents of those failed schools that they have the right and the option to remove their child out of that failed school into a successful school or a successful other school district.
So
the horrible thing is, because the kids are in a failed school, those children are not learning. And the data shows that.
Okay. So just at this point, and I don't want to get off into too deep into that subject, though, are you amenable to satellite schools or charter schools? Is that something that you see as a viable tool for teaching our children?
Well, you know, charter schools were created to do what public schools could not do. And when I look at that, I think about the St. Louis public schools. What do they not do successfully?
Okay.
They do not do foreign language. They are struggling with that.
Okay.
And so there is a language theme school here in the city of St. Louis, a charter school. But the St. Louis Public Schools have not contacted them or have not even discussed a partnership with them. I am not for any institution of learning, especially for our kids. What I have an issue with is, let's take the charter schools, Confluence Academies, which is about 4 schools here in the city. Those schools have failed and been failing the kids for the last 5 years, but the state has not stepped in to close those schools.
Okay.
When a school does not learn the students, and if it shows that no learning has advanced within a 3-year period, that system should be shut down.
So what would be the alternative? Okay, so you shut down the school. What is the alternatives for those parents in those school districts where the school has been closed?
Well, here in the city, we have very, very successful schools.
Mm-hmm.
And we have room in those schools that can absorb those students in those 22 failed schools.
Okay.
Nothing has been done to address that. I think the SAB, the Special Administrative Board, and Dr. Adams, I think that's why they're moving to bring in this oversight board and to start to subdivide the school system in one way to address those failed schools. Because the way the plan reads, Dr. Adams can present those 22 failed schools as a different school district. He can either contract out the management of those schools or hire a management company to come in or turn those schools over to a different school district or create a whole new system with those select schools.
Okay. Okay. So the idea is to isolate them and then find a solution for those schools, so that something that hopefully will address the deficiencies that currently exist in those schools. Now, when you say close them, then you have to take all of the resources out. You're basically removing that as a parent who may live within blocks of that school now has to find a way, or a way has to be provided for that child to move to another school district. So I'm trying to see how that is beneficial for the child.
Well, I think what I did was we're mixing apples and oranges.
Okay.
The schools that I said need to be closed is the charter schools that's named Confluence Academies. Those schools have failed too.
Oh,
and
okay.
Those kids have not been running for the last 5 years.
Gotcha.
At the same time, the St. Louis Public Schools have 22 failed schools also.
Okay.
Dr. Adams don't have to close those schools. The state gives him the authority to turn those schools around by different methods.
Gotcha.
One method would be to contract them all out to be managed by a different organization. He can come in and fire the principal and the teachers in that school and bring in an entire different staff. So the state gives him a lot of options to turn those 22 schools around.
Okay.
And one of the options I think they're moving forward to is creating a sub-school district to effect just that change for those 22 school districts, those 22 individual schools.
Gotcha. Okay. Now that gives me a little bit more to work with there, because I was looking at it because 22 schools is, though it's, when you look at the system as a whole, we talked about how large the system is. 22 schools still is a significant number of schools to try to juggle, resources to make them successful. But what you're saying is that they're just taking, once they've identified the problems, isolated it, and then they can have a better options of providing resources that are going to make them flourish. We're not just talking about cutting out a section of an area.
Correct.
Okay. So you have a decision to make coming up about running for the school board. So what are the things that would that you see that are going to go into fixing or go into that you can bring to that discussion that are going to benefit the school system?
Well, I think it's my historical facts and relationships that led up to the failure of those 22 schools, and also my understanding of the purpose and the mission of the Special Administrative Board. It's amazing that they're doing all their planning, and they have an elected board that's in place, 7 members of our community, and they have not included them in the planning of changing the school system. And so I'm hoping if I decide to run and I'm successful, that I would bring that to the general public and be the voice of the public to demand that the community and the elected board play a very important role in deciding the educational outcomes of our children. Right now, the elected board is being left out of the process. It's changing as they're sitting in a training session of its members that they've already trained prior to. But in my opinion, the Special Administrative Board convinced them to do that training to keep them preoccupied while they're moving forward with their plan to change the system. Because none of the 7 members of that board have voiced one concern about what the Special Administrative Board is planning on doing.
Okay. That, unfortunately, it wraps up our time. I really do want to say thank you very much for having taken the opportunity to talk to me today. And I'm going to leave an open invitation for you to come back. I specifically have in mind a topic I want to talk about with you. And if you give me a minute, I'll close the show and we'll talk about that. And I look forward to having you back.
Yes, sir. And I thank you so very much.
Alrighty, well, that wraps up the show for today. The video podcast for Altitude Adjustment is available on YouTube. You just need to do a little search of Lions Den STL, and you should find the podcast. Now, the audio podcast is available on Stitcher.com, Podcast.com, the iTunes Store, and the Google Music Play Store. The internet is powered by your likes, shares, and comments, so please like, share, and comment on this episode where you find it. It does matter. Always be cool, be calm, and above all, be careful. Look out for the other guy, because they may not be looking out for you.